15 rare and expensive objects mined from Earth. The deeper we dig into the Earth, the stranger the story becomes. Hidden beneath mountains, oceans, deserts, and extinct volcanoes are materials so rare that entire civilizations once fought for them. Gems that outshine diamond, metals denser than anything you've ever held, and stones that carry the fingerprints of events older than life itself. Which matters more to you? Beauty, rarity, or the story behind how something came to exist? Tell me in the comments. Because today you're not just looking at gemstones. You're stepping into a world of billion-year timelines, geological miracles, scientific anomalies, and materials so extraordinary that only a handful of people on Earth have ever touched them. Each of the 15 objects you're about to see isn't just valuable. It represents a moment in Earth's history that almost never happened. So take a breath, open your curiosity, and ask yourself one more question before we begin. Which of these 15 rare treasures do you think deserves the #1 spot? Let's find out. Ranked 15th, Mulivite, the billion-year meteoric glass. Most gemstones are born in silence, deep underground, shaped slowly over millions of years. But Mulivite, its story begins with noise, violent, cosmic noise. A blast powerful enough to melt the Earth carved this green glass into existence. A single moment of cosmic violence frozen forever. Tell me, when you look at a gemstone, do you care more about its beauty or the story of how violently it began? 15 million years ago, a meteor the size of a small city slammed into southern Germany with the force of hundreds of nuclear blasts. The impact vaporized everything: rock, soil, even parts of the atmosphere. If you've ever wondered what planetary destruction looks like frozen in time, Mulivite is the answer. And here's something I want you to think about. Would you ever wear a gemstone created in an explosion powerful enough to wipe out an entire region? Yes or no? As molten Earth was thrown into the sky, it cooled into green droplets of glass before raining back over what is now the Czech Republic. Every swirl, bubble, and chaotic line locked inside Mulivite is a fossil of that cosmic violence. Some geologists interpret these textures as simple melted silica, but many gemologists, including myself, believe they are impact signatures that cannot be replicated by any natural or artificial process today. So let me ask you, which explanation do you believe? Pure geology or cosmic fingerprint? Pick a side. For centuries, Mulivite was misunderstood. Locals carried small pieces for luck, unaware they were holding fragments of a cataclysm. But when scientists finally uncovered its cosmic origin, everything changed. Demand soared, prices climbed, and here's the twist that few people realize. Mulivite is running out, not metaphorically, literally. The only major deposit on Earth is almost exhausted. When the final pockets are gone, that's it. No mine will ever refill. No volcano will recreate it. The supply was fixed in a single ancient explosion. Now I want you to think ahead. Do you believe Mulivite will become one of the most sought-after cosmic relics in the next decade? Or will it remain a niche collector's stone? Drop your prediction, and let's see how many viewers guess correctly by the end of next year. Because when you hold a piece of Mulivite, you aren't just holding a gemstone. You're holding the aftershock of a planetary collision, a moment when Earth and the cosmos fused into something rare, beautiful, and impossible to repeat. And there's one more question I genuinely want to know. If you could own just one cosmic-born stone in your lifetime, would Mulivite be your choice? Why or why not? I'll be reading the comments, because the story of Mulivite is never complete without the people who choose to carry it. Ranked 14th, Shungite Elite 98% carbon, the primordial earth material. Before diamonds, before emeralds, before almost every gemstone you know, there was shungite, not just older, ancient on a scale that's almost impossible to comprehend. Scientists estimate that shungite formed over 2 billion years ago, during an era when Earth had no trees, no animals, and perhaps not even stable continents. This stone existed before forests, before mountains, before life understood how to grow. It is older than nearly everything you've ever seen. I'm curious, does age change the way you judge the value of a gem? Shungite isn't simply a black stone. The rarest form, elite shungite, with 98% pure carbon, looks like polished midnight metal. It reflects light like mercury, breaks like glass, and contains molecular structures so unusual that some researchers once wondered if it came from organic matter far older than Earth's known life. Others argued it formed deep in the planet and rose through ancient tectonic shifts. So let me ask you, which origin story feels more believable to you? Cosmic debris or primordial Earth chemistry? Pick a side. For thousands of years, people living near Russia's Karelia region believed shungite had unusual properties. They didn't have spectroscopy or electron microscopes, but they carried the stone, carved it, placed it in water, and used it in rituals that predate written history. And here's something interesting. Even today, visitors to Karelia often describe shungite as a stone that feels different. Have you ever held a stone that gave you a feeling you couldn't explain? If yes, I want to know which one. But beyond mystery, there is science. Under the microscope, elite shungite displays fullerene-like carbon structures, molecular arrangements so rare in nature that they sparked decades of research. Some scientists believe these structures could hold clues about Earth's early atmosphere. Others think they might mimic carbon forms found only in meteoritic impacts. So here's a fun challenge. If you had to bet $10,000 on its true origin, impact-born or Earth-born, which one would you choose? Today, elite shungite is becoming harder to find each year. Only a limited portion of Karelia produces the 98% grade, and miners say the richest veins are nearly depleted. When something is both ancient and finite, its value rarely stays low for long. So I'm curious, do you believe shungite will become a major collector's stone in the next decade, or remain a scientific curiosity reserved for specialists? Drop your prediction. I'm checking the comments to see how many of you think like geologists, and how many think like investors. Shungite doesn't sparkle or shout for attention. It simply endures, quietly carrying 2 billion years of Earth's memory in its metallic shine. Ranked 13th, Colombian carbonado, the alien black diamond. Among all the gemstones ever discovered, only one feels like it does not belong here. Carbonado, the mysterious black diamond found in Brazil and Colombia. Its surface looks rough, almost volcanic. Its structure is chaotic, stitched together like shattered glass, and yet it is one of the hardest natural materials on Earth. When scientists first examined this black diamond, the evidence pointed in two opposite directions: Earth or outer space. If you had to choose right now, what do you believe? Extraterrestrial origin or extreme Earth-born geology? Unlike traditional diamonds that form under extreme pressure deep underground, carbonado doesn't contain the signatures of Earth's mantle. Instead, scientists found something else, something shocking. Carbonado contains traces of hydrogen and isotopic ratios usually associated with outer space. In other words, the stone behaves like a fragment from somewhere beyond our planet. So tell me, if science proved a gemstone was extraterrestrial, would that make it more valuable to you or less? Carbonado is also different in shape and behavior. Instead of forming single crystals, it appears as porous clusters, almost like meteorites that hardened after surviving a fiery descent. Some researchers even propose that carbonado may have formed inside ancient supernova explosions, drifting through space for billions of years before landing on prehistoric Earth. Others argue it formed during a violent impact event, similar to Mulivite but under far more extreme conditions. So here's your moment to choose a side. Alien diamond from space or ultra-ancient Earth-born material? Which origin feels right to you? One thing is certain, carbonado is rare. Extremely rare. You won't find it in Africa, Australia, or Russia. Only two places, Brazil and the Central African Republic, produce it. And if you look at a map, those two regions were once connected as a single landmass hundreds of millions of years ago. So let me ask you a question I love posing to gem collectors. Do you think that's coincidence or evidence of a cosmic event that struck Earth before the continents split? Despite its rough appearance, carbonado has played a crucial role in human progress. Its hardness made it essential for industrial cutting tools, drilling equipment, and high-pressure technology. Ironically, the ugliest diamond helped to shape the modern world. But now, as deposits shrink and origin theories gain attention, collectors are finally noticing its uniqueness. Some even believe carbonado could become the next major investment stone, especially if future research confirms its extraterrestrial birth. Your turn to guess. In the next 20 years, will carbonado become a top-tier collector gem or remain a scientific anomaly known only to specialists? Drop your prediction. I'm reading every comment to see who spots future trends early. Perhaps it was born in a supernova, perhaps in Earth's deepest shadows. But carbonado's greatest power is this. Even today, science still can't fully explain it. Ranked 12th, palladium ore, the autocatalyst metal nearing scarcity. When people think of rare materials, they usually imagine gemstones locked deep in the earth. But some of the world's most valuable treasures don't sparkle. They power modern civilization. And among all the strategic metals hidden beneath our feet, one stands above the rest: palladium. There was a moment when palladium quietly overtook gold, leaving traders stunned. If a metal suddenly becomes more valuable than gold, does that make you more curious about it or more skeptical? Palladium belongs to the platinum group, but unlike platinum, it behaves almost like a magician in the world of chemistry. It can absorb hydrogen, purify gases, transform toxic emissions, and stabilize complex reactions. In fact, more than 80% of the world's palladium is used in autocatalysts, devices that make engines cleaner and more efficient. Without this metal, modern transportation would look very different. But here's the twist. Palladium is becoming harder and harder to find. Major deposits exist only in a handful of places: Russia's Norilsk, South Africa's Bushveld complex, and the Stillwater mine in the United States. And miners say the richest veins are already thinning. So tell me, if a resource becomes essential for daily life, should its price reflect scarcity or necessity? In 2019, palladium shocked global markets when its price exceeded gold. Investors who once ignored it suddenly rushed to acquire it. Some analysts called it the silent metal, because while the world focused on tech stocks and cryptocurrency, palladium quietly became one of the most powerful assets on Earth. Others argued the price surge was temporary, a bubble shaped by supply chain constraints. I'm curious which side you're on: long-term value or short-term spike. But what fascinates me most isn't the price. It's how this metal connects geology and society. Every ounce of palladium begins as ore, gray, unremarkable rock hidden deep underground. It takes enormous energy, complex refining, and months of processing just to extract a few grams. Think about that for a moment. Would people value anything in their lives more if they knew the effort required to create it? Today, with global demand rising and supply shrinking, experts debate what comes next. Some predict palladium will remain king of catalytic metals. Others believe electrification will slowly reduce its role. But here's a question for you. In the next 15 years, do you think palladium will remain one of the world's most valuable industrial metals, or be replaced by new technology? Give me your prediction. I want to see how many of you think like geologists and how many think like futurists. Because palladium isn't just a resource, it's a mirror of human progress, a symbol of how fragile our dependence on the earth really is, and a reminder that sometimes the most powerful treasures aren't the ones that shine the brightest. Ranked 11th, payite, once the rarest mineral ever recorded. There are gemstones that are rare, and then there are gemstones that feel almost impossible. For decades, payite belonged to a category no collector, no museum, and no gemologist could fully understand. It wasn't just scarce, it was nearly mythical. Payite once existed only as rumor, 2 crystals in the entire world. For you, what creates more fascination? A stone known for its beauty or a stone known for being nearly impossible to find? Payite was first identified in the 1950s by British mineralogist Arthur Payne, who had no idea at the time that he was holding what the scientific world would soon call the rarest mineral ever recorded. For almost half a century, only 2 crystals were known to exist. 2. Imagine an entire planet filled with gemstones, minerals, volcanoes, and mountain ranges. Yet only 2 fragments of this strange reddish-brown crystal had ever been found. So let me pose a thought. Do you believe Earth still holds secrets we haven't discovered? Or have we already unearthed its greatest treasures? Payite's mystery comes from its chemistry. It contains elements like boron, zirconium, and vanadium, an unusual combination that rarely forms stable crystals. That chemical improbability is why so little payite exists. It's not just rare, it's structurally unlikely, almost accidental. Some scientists even joke that payite shouldn't exist at all. For decades, gem hunters searched for more and found nothing. Museums displayed replicas because no real samples were available. Collectors whispered about it like a ghost stone. And then in the early 2000s, something changed. Miners in Myanmar uncovered new pockets. Small, unpredictable, but real. Enough to prove payite wasn't a legend, just extraordinarily elusive. Here's a question for you. If a stone once considered impossible suddenly becomes findable, does that make it less magical or even more interesting? I genuinely want to know your take. Even today, high-quality payite remains incredibly rare. Most stones are tiny, fractured, or too dark to cut. Fine specimens, the ones with deep reddish clarity, are unbelievably scarce. Some traders compare them to embers trapped in stone, glowing faintly under the light like forgotten heat from Earth's interior. Have you ever seen a gem that felt alive under the light? If yes, comment which one. It tells me a lot about your collector instincts. So what comes next for payite? Some believe the new deposits will vanish as quickly as they appeared. Others think deeper exploration might reveal the crystal's true origins. I'll leave you with a prediction challenge. In 20 years, will payite become a mainstream collector gemstone or return to being a geological ghost? Drop your guess. I'm watching to see who understands rarity on a deeper level. Payite reminds us that some minerals exist on the edge of impossibility, appearing only when nature's rarest conditions align for a heartbeat. Ranked 10th, native platinum nuggets, the metal that survives fire. Long before humans mastered furnaces, long before we learned to smelt copper or forge iron, there was a metal already perfect in its natural form, platinum. Not alloyed, not purified, not shaped by human hands, just resting in riverbeds as dense, silver-white nuggets. A platinum nugget sitting untouched in a riverbed feels almost supernatural. Pure metal created without human hands. If you saw this glimmering under shallow water, would you pick it up or doubt your own eyes? Platinum is one of Earth's most stubborn elements. It resists corrosion, refuses to tarnish, and shrugs off temperatures that would destroy almost anything else. Ancient civilizations tried to melt it and failed. Their furnaces weren't hot enough. Their tools weren't strong enough. So imagine their surprise when they found native platinum nuggets sitting quietly in river sediments, unscarred by time or nature. Tell me honestly, if you discovered a pure metal that even fire couldn't destroy, what would you think of it? Native platinum isn't common. It appears only in a few extraordinary locations: Russia's Ural Mountains, Colombia's Choco region, and select streams in Alaska. These nuggets form through a geological process that scientists still debate. Some believe they crystallize deep underground and travel upward through ancient volcanic channels. Others think they form when platinum-rich fluids cool in fractures near the Earth's crust. Which theory feels more convincing to you? Deep mantle origin or crustal crystallization? Pick a side. I'm curious where your intuition lands. What fascinates me most is how resilient these nuggets are. They survive erosion, pressure, and even geological upheaval. Rivers can tumble them for thousands of years, yet they emerge with a metallic sheen as bright as the day they formed. Most metals oxidize. Platinum does not. Most metals weaken. Platinum does not. So here's a question for collectors. Have you ever held something that felt heavier than it looked? Platinum does that. Its density surprises everyone who touches it for the first time. Despite its beauty, native platinum was once considered too difficult to work with. It wasn't until the 18th century, when new furnaces reached higher temperatures, that smiths finally unlocked its potential. And once they did, platinum became essential for science, industry, and high-end jewelry. But the purest material still comes from the earth exactly as nature made it. Untouched nuggets, rare and incredibly hard to find. As modern demand rises For catalysts, electronics, and medical devices, the supply of natural nuggets continues to shrink. Some believe these riverborne treasures may become museum pieces within a few decades. So here's your challenge. Do you think native platinum nuggets will become more valuable as industrial demand increases? Or will synthetic refining overshadow natural pieces? Drop your prediction. I want to see who among you thinks like a geologist and who thinks like a strategist. Before humans learned to shape metal, platinum shaped itself, washed, polished, and perfected by rivers older than civilization. Ranked ninth. Red beryl, the American emerald rarer than gold. Some gemstones are rare because they form deep underground. Others are rare because only a few places on Earth can create them. But red beryl, often called the American emerald, is rare for a different reason entirely. Nature almost never chooses to make it. Born in the split-second fury of volcanic heat, this gem forms only when nature performs a perfect miracle. So tell me, do you believe beauty comes from chaos or precision? Red beryl forms under conditions so precise, so fragile, that even the tiniest change in temperature, pressure, or chemistry causes the crystal to fail. Imagine nature attempting to write a perfect note on paper made of fire. That's how improbable this stone is. That's why nearly all red beryl ever discovered comes from a single location, the Wah-Wah Mountains of Utah. So tell me, if a gemstone exists almost nowhere else on Earth, does that make it more special or more vulnerable? Unlike emerald or aquamarine, red beryl gets its color from manganese, a rare combination of trace elements aligning under volcanic heat. The result is a crimson hue unlike anything else in the beryl family. Under magnification, red beryl looks like glowing embers suspended inside a crystal. Many collectors describe it as holding a sunset in your hand. Have you ever seen a gemstone whose color felt emotional? If yes, drop the name. I'd love to know what moves you. For decades, miners searched the volcanic fields of the American Southwest, hoping to find more. But even in Utah's legendary mine, most crystals are too small or too fractured to cut. Fine gem-quality stones are so rare that some estimates suggest red beryl is 8,000 times rarer than ruby and 30,000 times rarer than diamond. Now I want your honest opinion. Should a gemstone this rare be considered an investment or a scientific curiosity? As supply tightens, demand has quietly grown. Museums are securing specimens. Private collectors hunt for even tiny stones. And many gemologists believe that once the remaining pockets are exhausted, red beryl may enter a category reserved for minerals on the edge of extinction. Here's your prediction challenge. In the next 20 years, will red beryl become a cornerstone of American gem history or disappear into private collections forever? What fascinates me is the paradox. A gemstone formed by fire, yet so fragile that the world can only create it in a single geological heartbeat. It represents a moment in Earth's history that may never happen again. So let me ask one final question, not as a narrator, but as a gemologist who's held this stone under a microscope. If you had the chance to own a gemstone rarer than gold, rarer than diamond, and rarer than almost anything on Earth, would you choose beauty or rarity? And why? Tell me in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how you see red beryl. Red beryl is the proof that beauty doesn't need abundance. Sometimes the rarest flames burn only for a geological moment. Ranked 8th, grandidierite, the turquoise teal gem few have ever seen. On the windswept southern coast of Madagascar, where cliffs fall into turquoise water, geologists once noticed a flash of impossible color, blue, green, and something in between. That moment led to the discovery of one of the world's most elusive gems, grandidierite. On a remote coast of Madagascar, explorers spotted a flash of color unlike anything they'd seen. Blue, green, and something impossible in between. What's the rarest color you've ever seen in a gemstone? Grandidierite was first discovered on Madagascar's rugged southern coast, a place where cliffs meet the Indian Ocean and where the wind carries more secrets than words. Early explorers described the mineral as blue like the sea, green like the jungle, and bright like the sky. Even today, only a handful of gems possess that same layered turquoise hue. So tell me, Do you prefer gems with pure color or stones that shift between shades like this one? What makes grandidierite special isn't just its appearance, it's its rarity. Most crystals are opaque or heavily included, making transparent gem-quality pieces nearly impossible to find. Miners often work for weeks just to uncover fragments the size of a fingernail, and even then, many are too cloudy to cut. Here's a question for you. If you searched an entire mine for weeks and found only a tiny piece, would you treasure it more because of the effort required? Scientists classify grandidierite as a borosilicate mineral with magnesium and iron, but no textbook can capture the feeling of seeing it under natural light. Hold it up to the sun and it reveals something extraordinary. Pleochroism, the ability to show multiple colors depending on the angle. Turn it one way, deep blue. Tilt it slightly, teal. Rotate it fully, a pure glowing green. Which color fascinates you most? Blue, teal, or green? Pick one. I genuinely want to know. For decades, the world had almost no access to this stone. Museums had samples, but collectors? Almost none. Then in the 2000s, new deposits emerged in Madagascar and Sri Lanka. Small, inconsistent, and difficult to mine. Enough to bring grandidierite into the spotlight, but not enough to satisfy the demand of collectors who suddenly realized how unusual it was. Here's your prediction challenge. Do you think grandidierite will remain a gem for elite collectors only, or will growing awareness push it into mainstream demand? What I find most captivating about grandidierite is this paradox. It looks like a stone the ocean itself might have created, yet it forms under intense geological pressure deep underground. It feels tranquil, but its birth is violent. It looks timeless, but its discovery is recent. So let me ask you one final question, one that reveals a lot about your taste as a collector. If you could own only one unicorn gem, a stone almost no one has ever seen in person, would grandidierite make your top 3? Why or why not? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to see how many of you appreciate gems not for fame, but for uniqueness. Most people will live their entire lives without ever seeing this shade of blue-green in the natural world. That alone makes grandidierite unforgettable. Rank 7th, Heliodor, the golden beryl forged by ancient heat. In every culture, there is a story about sunlight being captured, trapped inside a jewel, a relic, or a sacred artifact. Most of those tales are metaphors. But Heliodor, the golden member of the beryl family, makes you wonder whether some myths were simply early attempts to describe a gemstone like this. Some gems sparkle, but this one glows like trapped sunlight from a forgotten age, which speaks to you more, a gemstone that shines sharply or one that radiates gentle warmth. Heliodor takes its name from 2 Greek words, helios, meaning sun, and doron, meaning gift, the gift of the sun. That name wasn't chosen for marketing. When you hold a fine piece of Heliodor to the light, it glows with a warmth so radiant that even seasoned gemologists pause for a moment. I'm curious, do you prefer gemstones that sparkle intensely, or stones that seem to glow softly from within? But what makes Heliodor special isn't only its color, it's the way that color is created. Deep inside the earth, in pockets of pegmatite heated by ancient volcanic forces, beryl crystals form slowly over millions of years. Trace amounts of iron slip into the structure, absorbing certain wavelengths of light and leaving behind a golden hue that looks both soft and powerful. Here's something to think about. If you knew a gemstone took millions of years to form its color, would you see it differently? Most Heliodor is found in Brazil, Namibia, Ukraine, and Madagascar, but only a small percentage is gem quality. Even fewer pieces are transparent enough to show their true brilliance. Miners describe the excitement of splitting open rough stone and seeing a flash of gold inside, a moment that happens far less often than people imagine. Let me ask you this. If you spent weeks searching and found just one perfect piece, would that rarity make it more meaningful to you? Heliodor also has a unique visual personality. Under one angle, it looks like pale lemon sunlight. Tilt it slightly and it deepens into golden honey. Rotate it and it glows with an amber warmth reminiscent of late afternoon light. Which shade do you prefer? Lemon, honey, or amber? Choose one. Your answer says a lot about your taste as a collector. Today, Heliodor sits in an interesting place in the gemstone world. It's rare but not impossible to find. Valuable, but still underrated. Some experts believe its price could rise sharply as awareness grows, while others argue that its beauty will keep it quietly appreciated by connoisseurs rather than the masses. So here's your prediction challenge. In 10 years, will Heliodor become the next rising star of the beryl family? Or remain a hidden treasure known only to collectors? And one more question, one that reveals how you truly see gemstones. Does Heliodor feel more like sunlight preserved or fire cooled into crystal? Why? Tell me in the comments. I love discovering how each viewer interprets this stone. Heliodor carries a calm, golden warmth, sunlight distilled into mineral form, held steady through millions of years of Earth's shifting heat. Ranked 6th, musgravite, the ultra-rare sister of taffitee. Most gemstones have mines. Some have regions. Musgravite has a handful of grains. For decades, its entire known existence could fit inside a teacup, a fact that made gemologists question whether this mineral even wanted to be found. For decades, the entire known supply of this mineral could fit in the palm of a hand. If a gemstone is almost impossible to find, does that make it more desirable or simply unreachable? Musgravite was first discovered in 1967 in the remote Musgrave Ranges of Australia, a landscape so harsh and isolated that it feels untouched by time. Early mineralogists identified it as a sibling of taffitee, but with one crucial difference. Musgravite is even rarer. For many years, only a handful of faceted stones were known to exist worldwide. So let me ask you, if a gemstone is so rare that most collectors will never see one, does that make it more desirable or simply unreachable? On the surface, musgravite looks calm, smoky gray, violet gray, sometimes shifting into deep olive tones. But under the microscope, the stone reveals an internal world of complexity, lattice distortions, trace elements, and subtle pleochroism that hint at the intense geological forces required to create it. It forms only when the right pressure, heat, and chemical environment come together in a narrow window of possibility. Have you ever seen a gemstone whose beauty wasn't loud, but quiet and mysterious? If so, which one? Today, musgravite comes primarily from Sri Lanka, Tanzania, Madagascar, and, on extremely rare occasions, the original Musgrave region. But even with global exploration, gem-quality crystals remain almost impossible to find. Each year, the number of newly cut stones that enter the market can be counted on one hand. So here's a question for you. Should a gemstone be valued for its beauty or for the extreme improbability of its existence? Pick a side. I'm curious where you stand. Because of its rarity, musgravite has quietly become a collector's obsession. Prices have surged into the tens of thousands per carat for fine material, but the value goes beyond money. For gemologists, musgravite represents a geological puzzle, one that still hasn't been fully solved. What exact conditions create it? Why so few crystals? Why does one mine produce it once and then never again? Your prediction challenge: in the next decade, will musgravite become a flagship gem for elite collectors or remain a scientific mystery known only to specialists? To me, musgravite is a reminder that the earth doesn't always reveal its treasures easily. Some stones require not just discovery, but persistence, patience, and a willingness to search the empty spaces on the map. So let me end with a personal question. If you had the chance to own a gemstone that almost no one on earth has ever seen, would musgravite be worth it to you, even if its beauty is subtle rather than dramatic? Why or why not? Tell me in the comments. I want to know how you define true rarity. It doesn't dazzle with loud color or fame. Musgravite speaks in whispers, rare, reserved, and unmistakably meant for those who seek the unusual. Ranked 5th, lapis lazuli, the gem that built ancient civilizations. Every ancient empire had its treasure, but only one stone appears in the temples of Egypt, the palaces of Mesopotamia, the art of Renaissance Italy, and the legends of Asia. A single blue pigment that shaped the aesthetic of human civilization for 6,000 years. This deep blue stone shaped religions, royalty, and art across continents for 6,000 years. What matters more to you, a gemstone's beauty or its influence on human history? In the mountains of Badakhshan, Afghanistan, there is a single valley where lapis lazuli has been mined since the dawn of recorded history. Imagine that for a moment. The same cliffs, the same tunnels, the same blue veins in the rock that ancient miners carved by hand, illuminated only by firelight. This is one of the oldest continuously operating mines in the world. So tell me, if you held a stone whose source hasn't changed for 6,000 years, would you feel connected to the past? Lapis lazuli wasn't just valuable, it was sacred. The Egyptians believed it carried the color of the heavens. Cleopatra crushed it into powder for eyeshadow. Pharaohs wore it in amulets to guide their souls into the afterlife. Even the gold sarcophagus of Tutankhamun is adorned with thin slices of lapis. Here's a question for you. When a gemstone carries spiritual meaning for thousands of years, does that make it more precious than one valued only for money? But its influence didn't stop in the ancient world. During the Renaissance, lapis lazuli was ground into ultramarine pigment, a color so brilliant and so rare that painters reserved it for only the most important subjects, usually the robes of the Virgin Mary. Ultramarine was more expensive than gold, and entire kingdoms controlled its trade routes. Let me ask, which blue do you prefer, natural gemstone blue, or the deep ultramarine of historical paintings? Your answer reveals your artistic instincts. What makes Afghan lapis different is its composition. The finest pieces contain golden flecks of pyrite, like stars scattered across a midnight sky. Collectors around the world consider this combination, celestial blue with cosmic gold, the hallmark of true ancient quality lapis. Here's a small challenge. Do the golden pyrite flecks make it feel more magical or distract from its purity? Pick a side. Today, lapis lazuli walks a delicate line between treasure and legacy. Supplies from Afghanistan fluctuate. Political changes affect mining access. And while lapis remains accessible, the finest quality, deep royal blue with minimal calcite, has become increasingly rare. Prediction time. In the next 20 years, will lapis rise again as a globally treasured gemstone, or remain an artifact cherished mostly by historians and artists? For me, lapis lazuli is not simply a gem. It is a portal into human history, a stone that watched civilizations rise, fall, and rebuild, all while keeping its color unchanged for millennia. So I'll end with one last question. If you could own a gemstone that has shaped human culture for thousands of years, would you choose lapis or something else entirely? Why? Share your thoughts. I'm curious what speaks to your sense of history. From temples to paintings to royal seals, lapis isn't just a stone. It's the color humanity chose to represent the divine. Ranked fourth, Oregon sunstone, the copper crystal that burns with natural fire. If you've ever been in the Oregon desert at noon, you know the light feels sharp, almost metallic. That's why the first miners were stunned when they cracked open volcanic rocks and found crystals glowing with the exact same fire as the desert sun. Miners split open volcanic rock expecting dull minerals, but found crystals burning with copper fire. If you uncovered something glowing like this in the desert, would you keep it or look for an even deeper flame? Oregon sunstone is one of the very few gemstones on Earth that contains natural copper platelets. These microscopic inclusions create a phenomenon called schiller, a fiery shimmer that dances across the crystal surface as you move it under the sun. Tilt it slightly, and it flickers like warm candlelight. Tilt it more, and it erupts into flashes of red, gold, and sometimes even green. Tell me honestly, do you prefer gemstones that shine in one color, or stones that shift like living fire? What makes Oregon sunstone especially remarkable is its origin. Unlike most feldspar gems that come from deep underground or ancient mountain belts, sunstone forms in volcanic lava flows. Millions of years ago, molten basalt erupted across the high desert of southeastern Oregon. As the lava cooled, pockets of feldspar began to crystallize, absorbing copper along the way. When erosion finally freed the crystals, they remained preserved in the dusty plains, waiting for someone to uncover them. So here's a question for you. Would you call this a gemstone shaped by fire or saved by time? Mining Oregon sunstone is a uniquely American experience. At places like the Dust Devil and Spectrum mines, collectors search by hand, sifting soil, cracking open basalt nodules, and watching for that telltale flash of copper. Many describe the moment of discovery as catching lightning in a rock. Have you ever gone hunting for stones or minerals yourself? If yes, comment what you found. I'm always curious about viewers' experiences. Color is another part of its allure. Most sunstone appears in warm champagne or peach tones, but the rarest pieces, those saturated with copper, burn in vibrant reds and greens. These confetti stones, as some call them, are among the most treasured feldspars in the world. Let me ask you a choice. Do you prefer the soft champagne glow or the intense red-green fire? Pick one. Your answer reveals your artistic taste. As awareness grows, collectors are beginning to realize that Oregon sunstone is one of the only gemstones in the world with a fully transparent, ethical mining chain. No conflict sourcing, no geopolitical complexity, no hidden origins. That alone may shape its future value. Prediction time. Do you think Oregon sunstone will become a flagship American gemstone in the next decade, or stay a hidden gem known only to experts? To me, sunstone is proof that beauty doesn't need perfection. It needs personality. It's a reminder that fire leaves marks, and sometimes those marks become extraordinary. So one last question for you. If you could hold a piece of natural fire in your hand, glowing with colors found nowhere else on Earth, would Oregon sunstone make your top 5? Why or why not? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Sunstone doesn't trap light. It plays with it, flashing like embers that refuse to cool, even after millions of years underground. Ranked third, Imperial green jadeite, the gem that created empires. Some gemstones are precious, a few are legendary, but only one has ever been powerful enough to shape entire empires, politically, spiritually, and economically. That stone is Imperial green jadeite. For centuries, this shade of green defined status, wealth, and divine authority. When you see a gemstone, do you judge it by its color or the power and legacy it represents? Imperial jadeite is not simply green. It is a color so vivid, so saturated, that the Chinese language created a term just for it, the green of emperors. When light enters a fine piece of jadeite, it doesn't bounce. It glows, like mist rising inside a lantern. It's a calm, controlled radiance. Nothing loud, nothing exaggerated, yet somehow more commanding than any neon gemstone on Earth. So tell me, do you prefer gemstones that shout with brilliance, or stones that whisper with authority? For thousands of years, jade was revered in China, long before the discovery of jadeite from Myanmar. When the first shipments of Burmese jadeite reached the Qing dynasty in the 1700s, everything changed. Here was a stone harder, clearer, and more vibrantly green than anything the empire had ever seen. Jadeite became a symbol of divine right, purity, moral virtue, and ultimately, political power, which raises a debate I'd love to hear your opinion on. Should a gemstone be valued for its beauty or for the civilization that built its meaning? Mining Imperial jadeite is almost as dramatic as its history. Deep in Myanmar's northern rainforests, massive boulders are unearthed, then sliced open like fruit. From the outside, they look ordinary, gray, dull, uninspiring, but inside, just a few centimeters beneath the surface, could be a streak of green worth more than a mansion. Let me ask you directly, would you risk cutting $1 million stone if one wrong strike could destroy it? When master carvers shape jadeite, they don't think like jewelers. They think like historians. Every curve, every polish, every translucent reveal becomes part of a cultural language that has survived dynasties, wars, revolutions, and modern markets. Have you ever held a gemstone that felt less like an accessory and more like an artifact? If yes, comment which one. It tells me how you connect to history. Today, prices for fine Imperial jadeite bracelets, cabochons, and carvings reach tens of millions of dollars. And yet the supply dwindles every year. Geologists believe we may already be living in the final era of high-quality jadeite mining. Prediction time. In the next 20 years, will Imperial jadeite surpass ruby and sapphire as the world's most culturally valuable gemstone? Or will emerging markets shift attention elsewhere? To me, Imperial jadeite represents something no other gem can capture: a story of power, peace, status, spirituality, and identity. Rank second, taffitee, the accidental discovery rarer than diamonds. In a dim workshop in Dublin, a gem cutter lifted a violet stone to the lamp and froze. The refraction didn't match anything he knew. It was a mistake, a misclassification, and the beginning of one of the rarest gem stories on Earth. A gem cutter lifted a lilac stone to the light and realized it didn't behave like anything known. Have you ever discovered something surprising simply by paying attention to tiny details? In 1945, gemologist Richard Taffa purchased a box of cut stones he believed to be spinel, common, affordable, unremarkable. But under lamplight, one stone behaved differently. Its refraction, its glow, its subtle lavender hue, something was off. Taffa couldn't explain it, so he did what every great investigator does. He questioned the obvious. Let me ask you, if you notice something slightly strange in a gemstone, would you ignore it or investigate it? After extensive testing, the answer came. This was not spinel. It was an entirely new mineral species, something never documented before. And the gemstone world was stunned. A new gem discovered not in a mine, but in someone's jewelry parcel? That almost never happens. So here's a question for you. Should a gemstone's value come from its beauty or from the improbability of its discovery? The rarity of taffete cannot be overstated. For years after its identification, only a handful of specimens were known. Even today, gem-quality taffite is found in only a few locations: Sri Lanka, Tanzania, and Madagascar, usually as tiny scattered crystals mixed with spinel deposits. Miners rarely notice them. Dealers often misidentify them. Many pieces of taffite have probably been sold as spinel without anyone realizing it. Have you ever seen a gemstone so subtle that its beauty wasn't immediate, but revealed itself slowly? If yes, comment which stone it was. In terms of appearance, taffite's charm lies in its quiet elegance. Unlike the bold purple of amethyst or the fiery blue of tanzanite, taffite sits in a delicate range, from soft lilac to cool mauve, sometimes even grayish violet. Under magnification, its double refraction creates a ghost-like doubling effect, an optical signature that set it apart from spinel in the very moment it was discovered. Here's a choice. Do you prefer gemstones with loud, dramatic color or subtle, mysterious tones like taffite? Today, taffite remains one of the rarest gemstones available to collectors. Rarer than diamond, rarer than ruby, rarer even than most museum pieces. Some years, only a few carats of fine material enter the market worldwide. That's not a marketing claim. It's geological reality. So here's your prediction challenge. In 20 years, will taffite become a mainstream luxury gem? Or will it remain a scientific curiosity treasured only by experts and elite collectors? And in first place, osmium crystals, the densest, most expensive, stable substance known. Before diamonds form, before planets cool, before minerals take shape, elements define the universe. Among them, one stands alone, heavy, unyielding, and impossibly dense. A metal so extreme that holding it feels like defying the limits of physical intuition. Osmium. Here is the heaviest stable substance nature can create. So dense it rewrites your intuition the moment you hold it. What impresses you more, a gem's beauty or the raw physical power of the element itself? Osmium is the densest stable element known to science. A cube the size of a sugar cube can outweigh your smartphone. Drop it in your hand, and your brain struggles to reconcile the weight with the size. It's a moment that leaves even seasoned scientists silent. So tell me, have you ever held an object that shocked you by how heavy it felt? For most of history, osmium wasn't seen as valuable. It hides deep inside platinum ores, appearing only in microscopic traces. Extracting it requires enormous effort, Dozens of tons of raw ore for a handful of grams. But everything changed when researchers learned how to stabilize osmium into a crystalline form. Suddenly, a material once known only to chemists entered the world of collectors. Here's a question. Should value come from beauty or from the difficulty of obtaining the material in the first place? Under the right conditions, osmium forms breathtaking blue-silver crystals, sharp, geometric, metallic, and unlike any natural metal pattern you've seen. They look futuristic, almost extraterrestrial. Some collectors say the first time they saw osmium crystals, it felt like staring at frozen electricity, which raises a choice. Do you prefer gemstones for color, or materials like this for their raw, elemental presence? I'm curious which side you're on, but osmium's rarity is not simply geological, it is practical. Only a tiny amount of osmium is refined each year. Much of the element remains locked inside platinum group mining operations, and only a small fraction is ever crystallized. Some experts believe that within a few decades, natural crystal-grade osmium may become unobtainable. Prediction time. Do you think osmium will become the next frontier of elite investment materials, or remain a scientific curiosity held by a small circle of collectors? Its density, hardness, and extreme stability make it unlike anything else on this list. Diamonds burn under enough heat, gold bends, emeralds crack. But osmium simply endures. It is the closest thing we have to a permanent material in an impermanent world. And that leads me to one last question, one that reveals how you see the relationship between humans and the materials we treasure. If you could own a single symbol of indestructibility, would you choose a gemstone or would you choose osmium? Why? Tell me in the comments. I love reading how viewers interpret the idea of a final material. Osmium doesn't sparkle, whisper, or seek attention. It simply exists at the extreme edge of matter, dense, absolute, and unrivaled by anything nature has ever made. We've just traveled through millions of years of pressure, fire, cosmic impact, and geological miracles. From stones born in volcanic storms, to metals forged deeper than imagination, to crystals so rare that only a few people on Earth will ever hold them. Each one carries a story that outlived empires, continents, and even the species that first witnessed their formation. And yet, every piece we looked at today came from the same place, the planet beneath our feet. That's the part that always moves me. Earth is still creating masterpieces, even when no one is watching. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 15 rare treasures surprised you the most? And which one would you want to see in person someday? Your answer helps me understand what kind of journeys you want next. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden side of geology, history, and the extraordinary materials shaped by time and chance, then make sure you stay with this channel, because there are far more secrets underground than we've uncovered today. Thank you for watching, for learning, and for being part of this exploration. I'll see you in the next episode, where the Earth has another story waiting for us.